The universe was vast, but the people of Earth had always felt small within it. Even when the first colony ships were launched and the outer systems became dotted with fragile stations and artificial habitats, humanity remained a flickering presence among giants. The great species of the galaxy had long looked upon Earthkind as a curiosity rather than a force, like a child let loose in a hall of ancient scholars. Humanity, so the alien powers said, lacked the patience, the vision, and the discipline to ever hold dominion among the stars. That was what made the discovery of Kestran Gate so dangerous. The Kestran Gate was not a gate in any physical sense, but a structure of incomprehensible scale and design discovered in the debris field surrounding the red dwarf star of Aravan's wake. It hung in silence, a latticework of blackened alloy taller than mountains and more ancient than recorded history. Ships that strayed too close found their instruments scrambled, their hulls shivering as though in the grasp of invisible hands. Scans revealed nothing but geometry that seemed both deliberate and impossible, like an equation stretched into metal, and humanity found it first. Commander Raphael Sorin stood before the viewport of the research cruiser Dawn of Horizons, his reflection hovering faintly against the yawning black. Beyond him, the Kestran Gate loomed like a shadow given substance. He had been a soldier before he was a scientist, but this thing silenced every martial instinct within him. No battlefield had ever felt this oppressive, as if the very laws of reality bent inward to kneel before the structure. Behind him, voices whispered across the deck. The research crew were hushed, speaking with the reverence of acolytes in a cathedral, radiation steady, energy levels unchanged. Still no response to probe transmissions. The words blurred together in Raphael's mind. He had been staring for hours, trying to discern some pattern in the endless lattice of the alien colossus. He told himself he was searching for tactical data, for weak points or signs of hidden weaponry, but in truth he was simply transfixed. He had killed men before and commanded fleets, but never had he faced a presence that made him doubt his place in existence. The hatch hissed, and footsteps approached with the clipped confidence of a woman who never second-guessed her own orders. It was Scholar Surin Althies, chief xenolinguist of the mission. "You have been here for too long," she said, her voice precise and low. "The crew notices when their commander does not sleep." Raphael exhaled slowly, fogging the glass. "Do they notice or do they fear it?" Surin moved to stand beside him, her sharp features lit by the faint glow of the viewport. Her eyes, pale gray and unyielding, never blinked as she studied the gate. "They fear what they cannot name. It is not you, it is that. Call it what you like," Raphael murmured, "but it is not just a ruin. This was made for a purpose. Everything is made for a purpose. The question is whether that purpose survives." He turned to look at her. "You believe it is dead, then? I believe it is waiting." The words lingered between them like frost. The Council on Earth had ordered secrecy. No alien powers were to be informed until humanity understood what it had found. Officially, the Dawn of Horizons was cataloging mineral belts in the sector. Unofficially, it was the spear tip of a discovery that could change the fate of their entire species. If the Kestran Gate was a weapon, humanity might hold leverage against civilizations that had long dismissed them. If it was a machine of travel, perhaps it could open paths to regions of the galaxy unreachable even by folded drives. If it was a trap, then the entire crew might already be dead men walking. "Commander," a voice called from the command pit, "we are receiving something, a pattern in the radiation flow." Raphael straightened instantly. "Show me." The deck's central hollow bloomed to life, displaying a storm of numerical data. Energy readings cascaded like waterfalls, collapsing into a rhythm. It was faint, but it was there, a pulse too deliberate to be natural. Surin leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "That is language." The pulse quickened, then slowed, then repeated. The hollow interpreted the shifts into peaks and valleys. "What does it say?" Raphael asked. She shook her head. "It is not language in the way we define it. It is mathematics encoded as resonance, a statement perhaps. Or a question. The pulses grew louder, the radiation intensifying, lights dimmed across the dawn of horizons as auxiliary systems compensated. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "It knows we are here," Surin whispered. A silence followed, deep and primal. Even the air recyclers seemed to hush, as if unwilling to intrude upon the revelation. Raphael forced himself to remain steady. "Then we answer." Surin's gaze snapped toward him. "Commander, you do not understand what you are proposing. We cannot shape a reply without risking misinterpretation. The wrong response could trigger—" "It already knows we exist," Raphael interrupted. His voice was calm, but beneath it was the steel of a man who had commanded fire in the void. "If we cower, we gain nothing. If we answer, we might learn." Surin held his stare, then finally inclined her head in resignation. "Very well. Then let us teach the stars that humanity does not remain silent." The reply was crafted over the course of 12 tense hours. Surin and her team wove numerical constants into a repeating sequence, a greeting stripped of cultural baggage, expressing only awareness and intent. When the final pattern was sent, the crew waited as though holding their breath against a tidal wave. The gate remained still, then the lattice shimmered. At first it was only a flicker, like starlight refracting off glass. Then the entire structure bloomed with faint illumination, threads of cold fire racing along impossible geometry. The ship's sensors wailed with warnings, unable to interpret the magnitude of the energy surge. Every man and woman aboard Dawn of Horizons felt the vibration in their bones. And then, a voice. Not in the air, not through speakers, but in their minds. A resonance that bypassed the senses and buried itself within thought. "You are late." The words were not human, not alien, but something older than language itself. Panic rippled through the crew. Several clutched their skulls, falling to their knees. Raphael stood rigid, his hands locked behind his back, even as pain knifed through his temples. "Identify yourself," he forced out. The resonance replied without pause. "We are the architects. You are late." Surin's face drained of color. "Architects," she breathed. That is a myth older than the records of any living species, a progenitor race said to have seeded structures across the galaxy." Raphael ignored her, his gaze fixed upon the vast lattice now blazing with power. "Late for what?" he demanded. The resonance deepened, vibrating through marrow and memory. "The covenant, the war, the inheritance, you are late." The light flared, and for an instant Raphael saw not metal, not machinery, but patterns of galaxies themselves etched across the gate. He glimpsed rivers of stars bound by chains of fire, civilizations crushed under impossible shadows, and a throne wrought from collapsing suns. And then it was gone. The lattice dimmed, leaving only the echo of the words. The crew gasped for air, as if released from an ocean's depth. Surin steadied herself against the console. "We should leave, immediately. This knowledge, it is more than dangerous. If the other powers learn what we have awakened." Raphael's hands clenched into fists. He had fought wars where humanity was the lesser, where fleets of alien design had torn through their colonies like storms. He had seen Earth's envoys dismissed, their petitions mocked, always small, always fragile. Now, for the first time, the galaxy had spoken to humanity as an heir. "No," he said. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the bridge with the weight of command. "We stay. Whatever this covenant is, whatever war they speak of, we are not too late." The crew looked at him with a mixture of awe and fear. Surin shook her head. "You risk the annihilation of our species." Raphael's gaze never left the gate, or its ascension. And in that moment, beneath the cold fire of the Kestran Gate, humanity's fate began to turn. The Dawn of Horizons drifted in orbit of the gate for 3 more days before anyone aboard began to believe again in ordinary routines. For a time, the crew moved like phantoms, whispering when they spoke at all, casting furtive glances at the black lattice that had branded itself into their minds. Men and women who had once faced the vacuum of space, without fear now avoided the viewports, as if afraid the gate might notice them again. Commander Raphael Sorin did not avoid it. He made a ritual of returning to the observation chamber each morning, his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes fixed on the structure that had spoken. The resonance still haunted his skull in restless echoes. "You are late." The phrase repeated in his sleep, threading through his dreams until he woke in a cold sweat. On the fourth day, Scholar Surin Allthies joined him. She did not speak at first. Instead, she stood beside him in silence, watching as faint starlight crawled along the alien geometry. "You are feeding the crew with your obsession," she finally said. Raphael's lips curved slightly. "And you are not obsessed. I am terrified. Fear is only the shape curiosity wears when the stakes are high." Surin exhaled sharply. "Do you hear yourself? We are ants staring into the abyss left behind by titans. The architects did not speak as though we were equals, Commander. They spoke as though we were servants arriving late to a labor we did not choose." Raphael turned his head toward her. His eyes were dark, unwavering. "And what if servitude is not what they intended? What if it is inheritance, as they claimed? What if the galaxy has misjudged us, and this," he gestured toward the lattice, "is the proof we are no longer insignificant?" Her jaw tightened, but she did not argue further. The unspoken truth hung heavy between them. If humanity announced what they had found, alien powers would descend upon Aravan's wake like carrion birds. Humanity's claim would be swallowed, their voice silenced. To even whisper of the gate was to risk annihilation. Later that day, Surin's research team brought her something new. The pulses of radiation had not ceased after the architects spoke. They had continued in a quieter rhythm, weaving through layers of interference like threads in a tapestry. At first the patterns seemed meaningless, but over time the shapes aligned. What emerged was a star map, not a modern chart, not aligned with current galactic coordinates, but an ancient one. Stars burned where none existed now, while others were dim or absent entirely. And at the heart of it was a single symbol etched in fire. Surin presented the findings in the command pit with the gravity of a funeral rite. "This is not a random scatter of points. It is a navigational sequence, a destination, or perhaps a summons." The map rotated in the hollow, stars shimmering like dust scattered by an invisible hand. The central symbol pulsed faintly, an echo of the gate's rhythm. "What system is it?" Raphael asked. Surin's expression was grim. Cross-referenced with current galactic cartography, it aligns with a region long abandoned, a graveyard of suns near the galactic rim. The nearest name recorded is Veya's Shroud. The name stirred faint recognition. Raphael remembered briefing scrolls during his military years. Veya's Shroud was considered cursed territory, an expanse where navigation arrays faltered and fleets vanished without trace. Officially, it was listed as unstable due to gravitational anomalies. Unofficially, no species claimed it. Raphael studied the pulsing star map. "Then that is where we go." Gasps spread across the pit. Several crew members exchanged horrified glances. One young officer blurted, "Commander, with respect, are you mad? Veya's Shroud swallows fleets whole. We barely have the supplies to manage another 3 weeks at this location. To venture into that abyss is exactly what they want," Raphael cut in, his voice sharp as a blade. This was not a warning, it was an invitation. "The gate is pointing us to something. If we turn away, we prove ourselves unworthy." Surin folded her arms. "And if it is a trap, then we spring it with our eyes open." No one dared answer. The dawn of horizons prepared to depart. Supply inventories were calculated, routes charted, engines primed. The crew moved with stiff reluctance, their fear sharpening into resentment. Yet none openly defied the commander. Raphael Sorin carried himself with the quiet authority of a man who had led men through war. His confidence was not bluster, but iron certainty, and to challenge, it required more courage than most possessed. As the ship disengaged orbit, the lattice of the gate dimmed once more, as though closing eyes that had been watching. Some claimed they felt a sigh ripple through the hull, a breath of satisfaction that the airs had finally moved. The journey toward Veya's Shroud lasted 12 days. At first, the crew filled the time with routine, maintaining systems, monitoring external channels, writing reports no one believed would ever be filed. But as they drew nearer, unease deepened. Navigation grew erratic, stars flickered where none should be, and space itself seemed to warp. One evening cycle, Surin summoned Raphael to the linguistics chamber. "I think I understand more," she said without preamble. The chamber was dark, its walls lined with projection threads displaying fragments of the resonance. Surin manipulated them with sharp gestures, weaving them into shape. "This sequence," she explained, "is more than a map. It is also a chronology. Look, lines of data resolved into images, battles etched in mathematical symphony, armadas clashed across collapsing suns, planets burned in equations of annihilation, and always in the background vast silhouettes of impossible scale, the architect's creations. This is the war they spoke of," Surin whispered. "A conflict older than history. The architects fought not against rivals, but against something else, something that consumed." The fragments shivered into shapes resembling serpentine shadows unfurling across galaxies. "What are they?" Raphael asked. "I do not know. The resonance does not name them, only describes them as voidkin, eaters of form, perhaps myth, perhaps truth." But whatever they were, the architects fought to halt their spread. Raphael's eyes burned as he watched suns collapse into darkness. "And the covenant?" Surin hesitated. "The resonance implies an agreement, not between the architects themselves, but between them and those who would inherit their works. A covenant of guardianship, perhaps of war." He turned to face her, voice steady. "Then humanity has been chosen." "No," she snapped, the first crack in her composure. "Humanity stumbled into this by chance. We are not chosen, we are bait. Do you not see? The architects are gone. Their war may have been lost. This covenant, if it ever existed, has been abandoned for millennia. And you want to place our entire species upon an altar to dead gods." Raphael did not flinch. "I see an opportunity. All my life, I have watched Earth bow its head to greater powers. I have commanded fleets forced into retreat because our weapons could not match theirs. For once, the galaxy is not dismissing us. It is listening, and I will not silence that voice." Surin's hands trembled, though whether from fury or fear she could not say. "Then let us pray," she whispered, "that the galaxy does not listen too closely." By the time the dawn of horizons reached the borders of Vea's shroud, space had grown strange. Sensors recorded conflicting gravitational vectors. Stars appeared displaced, as if light itself twisted into false positions. The crew grew restless, their dreams filled with whispers that were not their own. On the seventh day within the shroud, they found it. Drifting between the fractured light of two dying suns was a construct larger than any station, yet too organic to be called mechanical. It resembled a vast sphere of stone and steel, its surface ridged like the shell of some ancient leviathan. Great wounds marred its surface, exposing cavernous interiors. The resonance from the gate pulsed stronger as they approached. Surin's face was pale when she saw it. "It is not a station, it is a tomb." The ship's scans confirmed faint energy readings deep within the shell, no life signatures, but something older, something waiting. Raphael stood before the crew and gave his command. "Prepare an expedition." Murmurs erupted instantly. Some protested, some begged, but none disobeyed. Fear could not outweigh the authority of his will. A team of 12 was assembled, engineers, security, scientists. Surin went, despite her misgivings. She claimed her presence was necessary to interpret any findings, though in truth she did not trust Raphael to face the unknown without someone to argue against his boldness. They descended in a shuttle, breaching through one of the great wounds in the Leviathan shell. The interior was vast, filled with the husks of machines that defied comprehension. Towering pillars of crystal, conduits of liquid metal, chambers where gravity seemed to bend sideways. The air was thin but breathable, and at the heart of the tomb lay a chamber untouched by decay. It was circular, its walls lined with glyphs that shimmered faintly as the humans entered. At its center rose a pedestal bearing a crystalline object shaped like a tear of frozen fire. The moment Raphael stepped near, the chamber awoke. The glyphs blazed, light spilling across the walls in rivers of meaning. The crystal pulsed, and once more the resonance spoke, not through sound, but through thought. The covenant requires a hand, the inheritance requires a will, the war requires a soldier. Step forward, heir of dust. The words struck every mind like hammers. Some fell to their knees, clutching their heads. Others wept. Raphael stood tall. He placed his hand upon the crystal. In that instant, visions consumed him. He saw fleets of architect design, commanded not by gods, but by mortals chosen as proxies. He saw the voidkins spreading like ink across galaxies, devouring stars. He saw the architects forging weapons beyond imagination, entrusting them to their heirs when their own strength faltered. And he saw humanity, fragile, unready, yet present at last in the chain of inheritance. When the vision ended, Raphael collapsed to one knee, breath ragged. The crystal pulsed softly beneath his palm as if alive. Surin rushed to him, eyes wide. "What did you see?" He looked up at her, sweat running down his brow, his voice hoarse but steady. "I saw our destiny." The crystal was carried back to the dawn of horizons with the care of priests bearing a relic. Its surface pulsed faintly even outside the tomb, as though the object contained a heart of restrained fire. Every crew member who looked upon it felt something stir inside themselves, longing, dread, awe. Commander Raphael Sorin did not let it out of his sight. He ordered it sealed within a containment chamber, but spent long hours in its presence, studying the shifting glimmers within. Sometimes it seemed to whisper, but no words formed, only the weight of promise. The scholar Surin Althais wanted it destroyed. "It is not a gift," she insisted, standing before Raphael in the privacy of the commander's quarters. "It is a chain. Whatever it shows you, whatever you believe you saw, it is a leash, leading us to a war that is not ours." Raphael's jaw was set as stone. "Then whose war is it? The architects are gone. The voidkin, if they still exist, remain unchecked. Someone must stand in the breach." "Not us," she hissed. "Do you not understand? We have spent centuries only barely surviving against powers who dismiss us. If they discover what we now hold, they will burn us from the stars before they ever allow us to keep it. They will try." His eyes burned with the quiet fire of conviction. "But the covenant is clear. The inheritance requires a will. If humanity does not claim it, we remain forever beneath their boots. I will not allow that." For the first time, Surin faltered. His certainty was a force that pressed against her like gravity. She wanted to believe, wanted to see her people rise from weakness, but fear gnawed at her resolve. "I pray you are right," she whispered. 2 days later, the dawn of horizons detected incoming vessels. The alert shrieked across the command pit, and officers scrambled to their stations. Screens filled with signatures, a formation of ships translating from folded space at the edge of the shroud. Raphael's voice was calm, commanding. "Identify." The reply came at once. Multiple hulls of Calrith design, 4 war cruisers, 2 carriers. They are broadcasting a demand for immediate surrender and compliance. A chill rippled across the crew. The Calrith were no minor power. A predatory species with an empire spanning dozens of systems, they had long regarded humanity as trespassers in the galactic order. Their arrival here was no coincidence. "They know," Surin murmured. Raphael's hands gripped the railing. "Open channel." The hollow bloomed with the image of a Calrith admiral, his elongated skull ridged with ceremonial scars, his voice a low rumble. "Humans. You trespass upon restricted void. By order of the Calrith Conclave, you will surrender your vessel and all recovered artifacts. Compliance ensures survival. Defiance ensures extinction." The words carried no bluff. The Calrith did not threaten without intent. Raphael's gaze was unyielding. "This is human discovery, found in unclaimed space. We yield nothing." The Admiral's lipless mouth curved into something like amusement. "You mistake yourselves for equals. You are not. You are vermin scurrying upon relics left behind by gods. Relinquish what you have found, and your extinction may be postponed." The channel cut without ceremony. For a long moment, Silence hung heavy over the bridge. The crew looked at their commander with pale faces. Some expected him to order retreat, others expected him to surrender. Instead, Raphael spoke with quiet certainty. "We do not yield." The words fell like hammers. Officers stiffened. Some nodded grimly, others trembled, but none voiced opposition. Surin closed her eyes. "He is going to get us all killed." The battle began with fire that could split moons. Calrith cruisers advanced in disciplined formation, their hulls bristling with weapon arrays. The Dawn of Horizons was a research vessel, not a warship. Its armament was modest, its shields untested against such predators. The first volley tore across space, ripping through the void like claws. Shields buckled. The deck shuddered. Men and women were thrown from their stations. Shields at 60%. Engine coils destabilizing. Raphael barked orders with iron steadiness, directing evasive maneuvers, returning fire with surgical precision. They could not win. The crew knew it, the Calrith knew it. But still, the Dawn of Horizons fought, refusing surrender. In the containment chamber, the crystal blazed. Surin, struggling to stabilize a collapsing console, felt it before she saw it. A surge of resonance flooding through the ship, weaving into circuits and systems. Lights flickered, engines roared back to life. Weapons arrays pulsed with power far beyond design. The Dawn of Horizons struck back. Lances of incandescent energy erupted from its hull, slicing through a Calrith cruiser as though the ship were paper. Shockwaves rippled across the fleet. The Calrith admiral's formation broke in sudden chaos. On the bridge, officers gaped in disbelief. "Where did that come from? Those weapons, Commander, they were not part of our arsenal." Raphael's gaze burned toward the display, where the crystal's resonance bled through every system. "The inheritance," he murmured. The battle turned. For every strike the Calrith made, the Dawn of Horizons answered with fury magnified by alien fire. Shields reforged themselves mid-impact, hull fractures sealed with radiant light. The crystal had awakened not only weapons, but defenses, reshaping human technology into something that rivaled architect craft. The Calrith fought with ferocity, but their arrogance turned to dread. When the Dawn of Horizons destroyed their second cruiser, the Admiral withdrew, snarling promises of vengeance. The remaining ships vanished into folded space, leaving only wreckage behind. The crew erupted in stunned cheers, then fell into uneasy silence. Victory was theirs, but none could deny its source. The crystal pulsed within its chamber like a heart that had tasted blood. In the aftermath, Raphael gathered his senior staff. "This proves what I have said all along," he declared. "The Covenant is real. The inheritance is ours. Humanity is no longer a child among titans. We have been given tools to stand as equals." Some officers nodded eagerly, fire rekindled in their eyes. Others looked haunted, glancing toward Surin as though seeking permission to doubt. She spoke with quiet, measured words. "Commander, you have no idea what bargain you just made. That crystal does not give without cost. Power like this is never free." Raphael met her gaze with iron resolve. "Then we will pay the cost. Better to bleed as sovereigns than to live as cattle." Word of the battle spread faster than light. Though the Calrith conclave tried to shroud their defeat in secrecy, rumors ignited across the galactic networks. A human research vessel had annihilated a Calrith fleet. Impossible weapons had been unleashed. Whispers of the architects stirred, long-buried myths clawing to the surface. Envoys from other species began to probe, sending cautious messages, cloaked scouts, veiled threats. The galaxy was beginning to notice. On Earth, the Council convened in panicked secrecy. Old leaders argued over whether to suppress or embrace the discovery. Some feared alien retaliation. Others hungered for newfound supremacy, and in the void of Vea's shroud, the Dawn of Horizons lingered, awaiting Raphael's next command. He stood before the containment chamber, staring at the pulsing crystal. His reflection warped across its surface, twisted by alien fire. "You said we are late," he whispered, recalling the architect's words. "Then let us begin." The crystal pulsed in answer. That night Raphael dreamed. He walked among ruins older than suns, where shadows writhed like serpents across shattered worlds. He saw fleets of voidkin tearing galaxies into silence, and he saw the architects forging their last weapons, binding them not to themselves, but to those who would follow. At the heart of the dream, a voice spoke, "Guardians, rise. The covenant is renewed." Raphael awoke with fire in his veins. He knew then that there would be no turning back. Humanity had been noticed, and the galaxy would never again allow them obscurity. Surin entered the chamber, her face haggard. She had slept little, her mind gnawed by fear. "You dreamed it too," she said softly. Raphael did not ask how she knew, he only nodded. "Then we are bound," he said, "you and I. Whether you wish it or not." Her eyes filled with reluctant sorrow, and when the voidkin come, he looked back at the crystal, its light searing his vision. "Then humanity will stand." The dawn of horizons limped back toward human-controlled space under escort of its own miracle. The crystal's resonance had bound itself into the vessel's systems, repairing damage, sustaining life support, even stabilizing navigation within the fractured gravity of Vea's shroud. Yet though the ship survived, its crew bore scars that no resonance could mend. Every man and woman aboard had seen death descend in Calrith fire. Every one of them had felt the crystal surge through their bodies as though they themselves had become conduits. And every one of them now knew that their lives carried a burden far greater than survival. When Earth's Council finally allowed communication to pass, the transmission lasted 3 hours. Raphael Sorin gave his report with the calm precision of a soldier and the conviction of a prophet. He described the gate, the resonance, the tomb, and the crystal. He spoke of the covenant and the inheritance, of architect visions and of Calrith defeat. The council's faces were pale and strained. Some leaned forward with hungry eyes, others recoiled as if he had carried contagion. When he finished, silence lingered like fog. At last, High Speaker Renail addressed him. Her voice was sharp, the voice of one who had survived countless political storms. "Commander Sorin, your defiance of protocol has endangered not only your crew, but our entire species. If even a fraction of what you claim is true, then the powers of the galaxy will converge upon us. They will not allow humanity to hold such weapons." Raphael stood tall before the hollow feed. "They already tried." "And they failed. Against a single fleet," Renail retorted. "The Conclave fields thousands. Do you think you can slay them all with one vessel infused by a relic you do not understand?" His eyes did not waver. "No, but this is only the beginning. The Covenant spoke of inheritance. The architects left more than one gift. What we have found is a fragment, a key. If we seek further, we will find others." A murmur of alarm rippled through the council chamber. Another elder, Scholar General Tharvan, raised a hand. "And you would drag our fragile colonies into a war waged before our species had language. This covenant you revere is a death sentence. Better to bury the relic, burn the evidence, and beg the galaxy's forgiveness before they unite to destroy us." Raphael's voice was steady, almost gentle. "We have begged for centuries. We have hidden, compromised, and endured humiliation, and still they dismiss us. Do you wish your grandchildren to inherit that same weakness, or will you let them stand in a galaxy that finally fears our strength?" The chamber erupted in argument. Some voices demanded destruction of the crystal. Others whispered of fleets reforged by architect fire. The council fractured into factions before the transmission ended. Surin watched from the sidelines, her heart heavy. She had hoped the council might restrain Raphael, but instead he had infected them with his fire. Even those who feared him could not unsee the possibility of greatness. The galaxy did not wait for humanity to decide. Within weeks, the Calrith Conclave issued proclamations branding humans as thieves of forbidden relics. They called for immediate sanctions and summoned allies to a tribunal. The Gyron Compact, rivals of the Calrith, responded with deliberate silence, unwilling to aid an enemy by crushing a potential irritant. Other powers watched and waited, probing the edges of human space with scouts and envoys. Trade ships vanished. Colonies received threats. Stations near foreign borders reported shadowing vessels of alien design, and within the void, whispers of the architects stirred again. Across empires, old texts were unearthed, half-forgotten prophecies reinterpreted. Some declared the humans were doomed pawns. Others muttered that perhaps the inheritance was real, and that the galaxy should fear what might rise from dust. On Earth, demonstrations erupted in the streets of the capital arcologies. Some marched in awe of Raphael's defiance, waving banners that depicted humanity crowned in architect fire. Others screamed for his arrest, demanding that the crystal be destroyed before it brought doom. News feeds filled with speculation. Was the crystal a weapon, a technology, a curse? Was Raphael Sorin a savior or a reckless tyrant? Sorin, summoned to the council chambers as an expert witness, told the truth as she saw it. The resonance is alive, she testified. Not alive in the way we define life, but in purpose. It seeks heirs, it seeks continuity. If humanity accepts, then we are bound to a war against something the galaxy itself has forgotten, perhaps against shadows that no longer exist, or perhaps against nightmares waiting to return. Her words rippled across networks, igniting both terror and worship. Raphael was recalled in triumph, not in chains. When he stepped upon the capital's landing platform, throngs of citizens gathered to glimpse him. Some hailed him as commander of inheritance, others cursed him as bringer of ruin, yet none ignored him. Humanity had noticed itself, and the galaxy could no longer look away. The council convened again, this time not in secrecy, but before the eyes of billions. Debate raged for days. Scholars argued for caution, generals for readiness, politicians for compromise. At last, compromise came in the form of a new mandate, the Covenant Expeditionary Commission. Humanity would not discard the crystal, nor would it embrace it blindly. Instead, a sanctioned fleet would be created, charged with following the resonance wherever it led. Raphael Sorin was appointed its commander. Sorin Althies was named chief scholar. The decision fractured the species. Colonies loyal to Earth cheered. Fringe systems condemned it, declaring independence rather than tie themselves to a war older than history. Yet the commission was born, and with it humanity's first step into a destiny not of its own choosing. The commission's fleet was assembled in orbit above Earth's scarred moon. 10 ships, some refitted war cruisers, others exploration craft retrofitted with weapons. At their heart was the dawn of horizons, transformed by the crystal into something half-human, half-architect. As the fleet prepared, envoys from alien powers arrived under flags of truce. The first were the Gyran Compact. Tall, silver-skinned beings with luminous eyes, they spoke with the calm of merchants masking calculation. "We do not care for myths," their emissary said, "but the Calrith do. They will not rest until you are broken. We may look the other way, in exchange for trade rights, of course." Then came the Silvari Enclave, whose emissaries wore masks of carved stone, their voices echoed with ritual cadence. "The Covenant is no myth. The inheritance is fire, and fire consumes. If you claim it, you will burn, but perhaps your burning will keep the void at bay a little longer. We will not intervene, not yet." Others came with threats thinly veiled, with offers poisoned by ulterior motive. Raphael listened, but he bent to none. Humanity would walk this path alone, for to bind themselves to alien powers now would be to forfeit the very gift the architects had given. Sorin confronted him after the last envoy departed. "You are leading us into isolation," she said. "We could have allies, protection, leverage. Instead, you spurn them all." "Protection is chains," Raphael replied. "Allies are masters in disguise. If we are to claim the Covenant, we must stand without their crutches. And when they unite to crush us," his gaze was steady, "then we show them that we cannot be crushed." The first expedition beyond Vea's shroud began 3 months later. The resonance within the crystal pulsed with new rhythm, charting coordinates across the stars. The fleet translated through folded space, emerging near a barren system with a single dying star. There, hidden beneath the surface of a lifeless moon, they found another tomb. this one was not silent. As the dawn of horizons drew near, the tomb shuddered, its surface cracking. Ancient machinery awakened, spewing dust into orbit. The resonance roared through every human mind, a cry that spoke of awakening guardians. The tomb opened. From its depths rose constructs of gleaming alloy, shaped like beasts of prey. Their forms were both mechanical and alive, their eyes burning with architect fire. The fleet braced for battle, but the constructs did not attack. Instead, they circled the dawn of horizons like wolves, acknowledging a new alpha. Their resonance aligned with the crystal's pulse, and slowly, impossibly, they bent their heads in deference. The Covenant had not only left weapons, it had left armies. The news of humanity's fleet returning with an escort of architect war beasts spread like wildfire. The galaxy erupted. The Calrith Conclave declared humanity a heresy that must be exterminated. The Gyran Compact began covert negotiations with Earth, hoping to profit from the storm. The Silvari Enclave retreated into ritual silence, muttering prophecies of fire. And the people of Earth trembled. Some saw salvation, others damnation. Some called for holy war, others for surrender before doom. Colonies fractured further. Fleets trained in secrecy. Surin stood beside Raphael as they watched the constructs orbit silently around their vessels. "Do you see what you are unleashing?" she whispered. Raphael's face was stern, but his voice was calm. "I see what we are becoming. The galaxy wanted us to remain children. The architects chose otherwise, and I will not refuse their gift." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Then you had better pray their enemies truly are gone." Raphael's gaze lifted to the stars, where shadows writhed just beyond sight, where whispers filled his dreams. "They are not gone," he said softly, "and when they come, humanity will be ready." The architect constructs that followed the human fleet became known among the crew as the Wardens. They moved with the precision of predators, circling ships in silent vigil, their alloyed bodies reflecting starlight like rivers of steel. No one could explain how they obeyed the resonance, nor why they tolerated human command. But their presence changed everything. When the fleet returned to Earth's lunar docks, the Wardens remained in orbit, gliding through void like loyal sentinels. Images flooded across networks, stirring awe and terror in equal measure. Children painted their likeness on the walls of cities. Priests declared them angels of the Covenant. Protesters screamed that they were harbingers of extinction. And beyond human borders, the galaxy watched with sharpened blades. The Calrith Conclave struck first. A task force of 15 war cruisers, escorted by carriers and raiding vessels, translated into the outer rim of human space near the colony of Drenar's Reach. The Conclave's proclamation was blunt. The colony would be burned to ash unless the crystal relic was surrendered. The council hesitated. Some called for negotiation, others for retreat. But Raphael Sorin did not wait for their permission. He mobilized the Commission's fleet, leading the Dawn of Horizons and its wardens toward Drenar's Reach. As the fleets closed distance, the void lit with fire. The Calrith ships advanced in tight formation, weapons arrays gleaming. They did not fear a single human fleet, however empowered. Their admiral broadcast with scornful certainty, "You play with relics you do not understand. You will die as children who stole their father's blade." Raphael answered without ceremony, "We will die as heirs." Then the battle began. The Wardens struck first. Their forms rippled with energy, lances of radiant fire spearing through Calrith shields. They moved like predators through water, weaving between enemy salvos with unnatural grace. Where their beams struck, hulls split apart, venting flame and debris into the void. The Dawn of Horizons surged behind them, its weapons augmented by the crystal's pulse. Energy lances tore through cruisers, missiles guided by resonance detonated with surgical precision. But the Calrith were no prey. Their return fire hammered against human ships, shattering shields, breaching hulls. One frigate was torn in half, its crew consumed in an instant. Another burned as plasma burrowed through its reactor. On the command deck, Surin clutched her console, shouting data as alarms screamed. Wardens falling, 3 constructs disabled, shield reserves collapsing across the second line. Raphael barked orders, his voice steady despite the chaos. Hold formation, press their flank. The void became a storm. Ships died by the dozen, wardens shattered, human lives extinguished in seconds. Yet still the fleet pressed forward. At last, the crystal flared. Its resonance flooded through every vessel, a chorus of fire. Shields reforged, weapons overcharged, engines surged. The human fleet became a single spear of light, driving straight into the heart of the Calrith formation. The Conclave's flagship shuddered under the impact. Its hull cracked, reactors overloaded, and in one blinding explosion it vanished into the void. The Calrith broke. Survivors fled into folded space, abandoning wreckage and corpses behind. Drenar's Reach was saved, though its people would forever bear the scars of fire etched into their sky. The battle was a victory, but its cost was heavy. 2 human ships destroyed, 4 crippled, hundreds of lives lost, half the wardens reduced to drifting husks. On the deck of the Dawn of Horizons, silence reigned as damage reports rolled in. Men and women wept quietly at their stations. The victory had been undeniable, but so too was the price. Surin turned to Raphael, her voice hoarse. Do you see? The Covenant will bleed us dry. Every gift it grants demands lives. How many more before you admit this is not salvation, but sacrifice? Raphael's gaze was hard. And how many would have died if we yielded? Drenar's Reach would be ashes. Earth itself would soon follow. The Covenant demands sacrifice, yes, but without it we have only chains. She closed her eyes, unable to answer. The galaxy reeled. News of the battle spread faster than the wreckage cooled. The Calrith Conclave, humiliated, vowed total war. The Gyran Compact, smelling opportunity, offered covert aid in exchange for future concessions. Other powers whispered of alliances or preemptive strikes. The Solvari Enclave broke their silence, issuing a chilling proclamation. The fire has been kindled. It will burn the Calrith. It will burn humanity. It will burn all who stand too near. And yet, even as the galaxy debated, something older stirred. Surin was the first to notice it. Late one cycle, as the fleet limped back toward Earth for repairs, she pored over the crystal's resonance in the linguistics chamber. Its rhythms had always carried meaning, maps, visions, fragments of war. But now, buried within the pulses, she found distortion. At first it was faint, like static on a signal. But as she magnified it, the pattern became clear. It was not static, it was another voice. A whisper woven into the resonance. Not of architects, not of heirs, something else. We remember you. The words chilled her marrow. They were not directed at humanity, not precisely, but at the resonance itself, as if speaking across an abyss to the crystal. When she told Raphael, his eyes narrowed. The Voidkin, he said softly. You do not know that, she protested. It could be an echo, a corruption. It is them, they are not gone. She shook her head violently. If you are right, then we are doomed. The Covenant was not inheritance, Raphael, it was bait. The architects left these relics as beacons, knowing their enemies would hear when we used them. Raphael placed a hand upon the crystal, feeling its pulse burn into his bones. Then let them hear, he said. Let them come, humanity will not cower. Surin's voice cracked with despair. You are calling them to us? He met her gaze, eyes burning with terrible certainty. No, they were already coming. The Covenant is not bait, it is a weapon, and we are the hands that must wield it. The whispers grew, not only in the crystal, but in the dreams of the crew. Men and women woke screaming of shadows devouring stars, of serpents coiling through void. Some began to hear voices even while awake, faint murmurs that promised power, hunger, annihilation. A young officer shot himself rather than hear them another night. Another sabotaged a reactor, raving that the ship had to die before it drew the shadows closer. Fear spread like infection. Surin fought to stabilize the crew, but her efforts were drowning against a tide of dread. Every day she pleaded with Raphael to cease using the crystal, to bury it, to flee. Every day he refused. The whispers are proof, he insisted. The enemy stirs. The architects did not choose us by mistake. Humanity is late, yes, but not too late. We will be the blade that ends what they began." She looked at him then and saw not a commander, not even a man, but a figure shaped by destiny larger than flesh. His conviction frightened her more than the whispers. Earth convened the council again when news of the whispers reached them. Panic spread through the chambers. Some demanded immediate surrender of the relics to stronger powers. Others urged humanity to forge alliances at any cost. But Raphael appeared before them once more, bearing both victory and fire. He spoke not as a soldier, but as a prophet. "You cower before whispers," he declared, his voice echoing across the chamber. "But whispers do not burn colonies. Whispers do not enslave our children. The Calrith do, others will follow. And behind them, yes, there are shadows. The Voidkin are real. The architects gave us the means to fight them. Will you bury it and leave our grandchildren defenseless, or will you rise and claim your place as guardians of the galaxy?" The chamber erupted in uproar. Some cheered, others shouted curses, but no one could deny him. The commission was expanded. More ships, more crews, more resources poured into the fleet. Colonies rebelled, protests flared, but the council committed. Humanity had chosen. The next expedition followed coordinates burned into the crystal's new rhythm. The fleet translated into a sector long forgotten where no star burned. There, hidden in the black, was a structure of impossible scale, not a tomb, a forge. A sphere larger than planets, its surface lined with scars, its interior blazing faintly with dormant machinery. The resonance surged. Surin fell to her knees as the voice filled every mind. "Starforge awakens, covenant renewed, war returns." The forge stirred, its machinery beginning to breathe again, and from the abyss beyond the forge, shadows moved. The Starforge loomed across the void like a slumbering god. Its surface glimmered with broken lines, fractures left from battles fought before human history began. Yet beneath the scars, power stirred. Machinery, the size of continents, awakened, grinding with echoes that shivered through the fleet. The wardens hovered uneasily, their alloyed forms thrumming with resonance as though they remembered this place. The crystal aboard the dawn of horizons pulsed with furious rhythm, its song no longer fractured whispers, but a chorus that filled every human mind. Starforge awakens, covenant renewed, war returns. Surin Allthies clutched the console until her knuckles whitened. She felt her own voice trembling without her consent, as though the resonance had stolen her tongue. "This is not a forge, it is a summoning. We must leave before the void answered." The abyss trembled. They came not as ships, nor as beasts, but as shadows given shape. The void peeled open, and from its wound emerged leviathans of black fire. Their forms twisted against the eye, angles that bent perception, bodies larger than cities. They drifted like carrion birds, yet every movement radiated hunger. The wardens screamed, not with sound, but with resonance so sharp that every crew member dropped to their knees, blood streaming from ears and noses. Surin gasped, forcing words past the agony. "They are here, the Voidkin." Raphael stood tall at the command deck, his eyes locked upon the Leviathans. Where others saw terror, he saw confirmation. "This is the war the architects began, and it falls to us to finish it." He raised his voice to the fleet. "All hands, brace for battle. Humanity stands at the forge of destiny. We will not yield," the Leviathans surged. Their very presence warped space, dragging ships from formation. Shields buckled under waves of distortion. A frigate screamed across the comms before it imploded, its hull folding into nothingness as if swallowed whole. The wardens launched forward, their alloyed bodies blazing with architect fire. They struck the Leviathans with beams of radiant energy. Some Leviathans recoiled, black fire hissing under the assault. Others absorbed the blows, growing brighter with parasitic hunger. Human vessels opened fire. Lances, missiles, plasma, all hurled into the abyss. The Voidkin writhed but did not break. Their counterattack came as waves of darkness that pierced hulls without tearing metal, consuming crew directly. Soldiers vanished mid-scream, erased from existence. Surin's hands shook as she clung to her console. "We cannot kill them. Our weapons are gnats against a storm. Raphael's voice rang with certainty. Not weapons, the forge. The starforge responded. As the voidkin struck, its surface erupted with light. Vast arrays unfolded like wings, channels of energy igniting across its sphere. Resonance thundered through every vessel, through every human mind. A vision filled Surin's sight, the architects standing against this same darkness, their forges blazing as citadels of fire. She saw their fleets die by the thousands, their forges falling one by one, until at last they scattered remnants of their covenant across the stars. The vision ended with humanity. Her knees buckled. We are not ready. We are a fraction of what they were. How can we? Raphael seized her shoulders, his voice low but fierce. Because they failed by being alone. Humanity is not alone. We are their heirs, yes, but we are something new, something the Voidkin have never faced. His eyes burned with resolve. We are hungry, we are desperate, and we do not know how to surrender. The forge's call deepened. Channels of energy opened across its surface, focusing upon the crystal within the dawn of horizons. The resonance became a bridge, a demand, a choice. Wield the forge or perish. Raphael did not hesitate. He placed his hands upon the crystal, letting it surge through him. His body convulsed as fire roared through every nerve, but he did not break. The forge awakened. Beams of architect fire erupted from its surface, slicing through voidkin leviathans. Where they struck, black fire withered, forms unraveling into mist. The void shrieked in fury, shadows convulsing, yet still they pressed forward. The forge was no mere weapon. It was a son of war, burning the abyss itself. But the cost was terrible. Every surge through Raphael's body tore at him. His skin blistered, eyes bleeding, veins glowing as though molten. Surin tried to pull him away, screaming, but he gripped the crystal tighter. If I let go, we all die. The fleet rallied behind the forge's fire. Wardens struck with renewed fury, human ships pressed the attack. Together they drove leviathans back, tearing one after another apart. But more poured from the abyss, endless, uncountable. Surin wept as she watched Raphael's body burning alive in slow agony. You cannot carry it, it will kill you. His voice was a rasp, but his eyes still blazed. Then I will die a weapon in humanity's hand. The Council on Earth watched through transmission, their chambers filled with horror. Billions across humanity's world saw the battle, saw their commander aflame with architect fire, saw leviathans devouring stars. And for the first time they did not argue, they did not fracture, they did not doubt. They rose. Across colonies, across stations, across ships, humanity pledged to the covenant. Volunteers swarmed into fleets. Engineers tore apart factories to forge weapons. Priests and protesters alike fell silent in awe. Humanity had been divided for centuries, but under the shadow of the void, they became one. The forge blazed brighter, feeding on humanity's unity. Its resonance spread not only through Raphael, but through every human mind linked by conviction. The crystal pulsed like a heart, binding billions into one chorus. Surin felt it burn within her, not as torment, but as belonging. For the first time she understood. We are the forge, she whispered. Raphael smiled through blood. Now you see. Together they poured their will into the resonance. The forge answered. Light consumed the void. Every leviathan shrieked as architect fire surged across them. Their shadows melted, their forms unraveling. The abyss recoiled, folding upon itself, retreating beyond the wound it had opened. One by one the voidkin perished. The last shrieked with a voice that shook galaxies. You are not heirs, you are hunger made flesh, we will return. And then they were gone, the void sealed, the forge dimmed, silence, true silence, fell. Raphael collapsed. Surin caught him before he struck the deck. His body was broken, veins still glowing faintly, breath shallow. Stay with me, she begged, tears streaking her face. You did it. Humanity did it. Stay. His eyes fluttered open, gaze unfocused, yet a faint smile curved his lips. Not savior, he whispered. Not prophet, just heir. The light left his eyes. Surin clutched him, sobbing, even as the fleet around her erupted in cries of triumph and grief. Raphael Sorin, the man who refused to yield, was gone. humanity endured. The forge remained, no longer dormant but not yet fully alive. The wardens lingered, diminished yet loyal. The fleet limped home, bearing victory that was both salvation and warning. The council declared a new era, the Age of Inheritance. Humanity would rebuild, expand, and prepare. The Voidkin would return, none doubted that now. But when they did, the galaxy would not face them alone. For humanity had proven what even the architects could not, that unity born of desperation could wield the forge. Surin stood upon Earth's surface weeks later, the first time her feet had touched soil since her youth. She carried Raphael's ashes in a sealed urn, though she knew he would have preferred flame to dust. Before a gathered multitude, she spoke the words that would echo through history. He gave us fire, now it is ours to tend. We are the heirs of the covenant, we are the forge, and we will burn the void. The crowd roared. Across the stars, humanity rose, and far beyond, in a darkness not yet vanquished, the Voidkin listened. They whispered of hunger, of return, and of fear.